If Congress exercised its right to cut off funding to really end the Iraq War, do you think that the president would leave the troops in a lurch, or wouldn't he withdraw them in a responsible fashion?
Congress has the right to cut off funding. The Democrats don't have the guts to do that. And the reason they don't is because they don't have the votes either. In fact, it's amazing to me that they're continuing to push this awful resolution that the House has pushed, knowing that the president will veto it and knowing that his veto will be upheld. It's all an exercise in politics that undermines our troops. I don't think anybody could look at it fairly and say that this is beneficial to our troops in the field, and frankly undermines the freedom-seeking Iraqi people. And so I get so tired of the politics. But if the Democrats really believe that we should end that war and we should get out of there, then they could, if they want to, try to cut off the funds. I don't think they have the guts to try that. I think the American people would really be offended by that, because that would really be leaving our troops high and dry, and leaving the Iraqi people high and dry in a way that can lead to not only civil war, but the death and destruction of hundreds of thousands of people, and I think in a wrongful fashion.
People are raising concerns about two aspects of the Iraq policy that they say are infringing upon Iraqi sovereignty, specifically the oil law, which some people think sectors of the administration are sort of forcing down Iraq's throat that might end up leading to privatization, and the establishment of long-term U.S. bases.
Well, the only thing the United States is trying to do on the oil law is, as I see it, is to make sure that it's distributed, that the benefits are distributed fairly among the three major factions.
There are also aspects of it that deal with possible privatization. You're not aware of that?
I'm aware of ideas. I don't think anybody's pushing that hard.
The filibuster, the way that the filibuster, some people have argued that there's a discrepancy in how the filibuster is applied to, it's on the table when on general matters, and it's off the table when Bush wants to get a judicial nomination through. That there's a double standard as to when the filibuster is on the table in the Senate.
Both sides use filibusters to stop legislation that they don't agree with, or to stop nominations they don't agree with. That's a right of either side to do that. It's not, I might disagree with the use of filibusters against judges, which of course has never been done before, at least in my view, and I studied and researched it pretty carefully. But I have no problems with either side filibustering if they feel strongly enough about various issues. But on judges, I don't believe there should be filibusters. We have an obligation to confirm or not confirm. That's our obligation.
Do you regret your Iraq vote for the authorization for the president to initiate the invasion? And, in terms of statements that were made about Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, other people didn't buy it. Kucinich didn't buy it. Ron Paul didn't buy it. Do you regret having bought some of that?
If you're going to cite Ron Paul as an expert on these things, I think that's a mistake. He's a member of Congress and deserves credibility, but he's certainly not an expert in these areas. With regard to the war resolution, I believe I voted properly. At that time, virtually every free nation that had an intelligence capability agreed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, agreed that Iraq had the capacity of fostering terrorism, agreed that they had used chemical weapons against their own people, the Kurds in the north, and that they actually had people in place that could have developed a nuclear device. So we all voted on the basis of that faulty intelligence, even though it was faulty in the sense that they had all of these weapons in place. It was not faulty in the sense that they had the capacity to develop those weapons. And we moved in on what we thought were truthful reasons. And of course, as you know, we have bottled up a lot of terrorism in the process. So would we have gone in had we known there were no weapons of mass destruction? That's another question.
The administration cut short the inspectors You know, the inspectors were still saying we wanted more time. It was a bit early 2002.
The administration did not.
And
They cut short the inspectors. Saddam Hussein did. The fact of the matter is that the UN inspectors left Iraq because they did not feel that they could continue, and they didn't have the support of the government at the time. So no, I personally talked to the UN inspector, and he indicated that they weren't able to go any farther than what they did.
which inspector?
What?
Which inspector did you talk to?
Well, the head of the IAEA is who I talked to.
Is that Mohammed El-Baradei?
Yeah.
There are some reports in the U.S. press as well as in the Turkish press that the U.S. is using, with the PKK, Iraq as a staging ground for launching attacks on Iran. Are you aware of this?
That's totally false.
How do you know that?
Yeah, I'm aware of the accusations. I'm also aware of how totally false they are. Now, let's face it, we are concerned about Iranian influence and weapons being sent into Iraq to undermine the freedom that we hope Iraqis can have. And there's some indication that Iranian weapons and other military devices have been sent into Iraq and have been causing a lot of problems. We're also concerned about Iranian stirring up of conflicts between the Sunnis and the Shias. And frankly, I think you could even go farther and say the Kurds as well. So yes, we're concerned about that, but we're not concerned about going to war or doing anything overtly against the Iranians other than within Iraq.
What happens if the administration launches an attack on Iran?
They're not going to do that.
They're not going to do
No, nobody's even thinking of that. Nobody's even had the slightest thought along those lines. And that's just a phony.
Bush says everything is on the table.
Well, let's put it this way: everything is on the table, but nobody's going to do that at this point. It would take some really serious thing for that to occur, and I don't know anybody who wants to do that in the administration or out.
How exactly do you know that those things are false, that the allegations that the U.S. is using the PKK or other forces to attack Iran? How do you know that that's false? Who are you trusting?
Oh, the Intelligence Committee.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
But couldn't you...
That's all I'm going to say about it.
But you also believe that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, sir.
I don't believe they have weapons of mass
You
destruction.
believed that...
Everybody believed that. All of the intelligence agencies in Britain, France, Germany, the United States believed that they had weapons of mass destruction at the time that we decided to enter into this conflict.
But people like Scott Ritter were saying that they didn't.
Wait. He said that afterwards, and he is not the authority on these matters. Let's be honest about it. Our intelligence was faulty. I'm right in the middle of all of that, and it was faulty. But everybody who was anybody believed that at the time, that there were weapons of mass destruction. And that's why we went in there. It's one of the reasons why we went in there. There were others as well. We believed that Al-Qaeda had influence in Iraq that could have transcended. Today we know they do. We know the Zarqawi and others were affiliated with Al-Qaeda. We also know that they're a constant menacing force in the Anbar province.